Interested in knowing more about clusters and industrial change? Then find out what the European Observatory for Clusters and Industrial Change, EOCIC in short, has on offer for you. The observatory helps policymakers and business support practitioners across Europe's regions and countries achieving ambitious goals. Ambitious goals like access data and trends on industrial clusters and businesses, design better cluster policies to drive industrial modernization, create strategic interregional collaborations, and to connect with the cluster community all over Europe. But what concretely does it do? Well, first of all, the observatory provides geographical and sectoral analyses of concentrations of specific economic activities. With the European Cluster Mapping tool, you get a visual overview of regional clusters in Europe over time for both 51 industrial sectors or 10 cross-sectoral so-called emerging industries. If you want to know more, make sure to check the European Panorama of Clusters and Industrial Change. In this report, you'll get a good idea about where industrial strongholds are based, and that cluster strength matters as they account for 19% of European jobs and 22% of European wages. If you want to know more about current and upcoming cluster trends and how industries are changing, then the European Cluster and Industrial Transformation Trends Report will have further information for you. And if you are curious about industrial modernization in individual countries or regions, look at the Regional Ecosystem Scoreboard for Clusters and Industrial Change. It gives you an overview of the strengths and bottlenecks of regional business environments. Speaking of industrial modernization, with the summary report of policy lessons learned, we report on our work in advising 10 regions on modern cluster policy and present a set of actions in the form of a comprehensive strategy. How to use clusters to foster regional economic transformation, how to develop strategies that deliver solutions to address specific challenges, and how to foster network building and skills formation. On top, in the European Cluster Programme Report, you get a detailed analysis of 30 national programs that are in place for helping clusters in 20 European countries. This is complemented with insights at the regional and international level. The observatory also guides policymakers through smart guides for cluster policy monitoring and evaluation and for boosting entrepreneurship. For instance, the Smart Guide to Entrepreneurship Support through Clusters lists 7 do's and don'ts when designing effective support programs and many good practices for supporting startups and the scaling up of existing firms. But that's not all. The observatory also gives advice to cluster managers engaged in European cluster partnerships to promote their strategic networking. Do you want to learn more about how to develop a successful partnership strategy to team up along smart specialization priorities or to go international together? Then read our Smart Guide for European Strategic Cluster Partnerships. And to finish off, and above all, the observatory also connects the cluster community at a local, national, and European level. The observatory has brought together cluster stakeholders and experts in various meetings, such as under the European Cluster Policy Forum, that has fostered mutual cluster policy learning. These discussions are now being followed up by the European Commission Expert Group on Clusters. And another success was the 2019 European Cluster Conference that gathered 450 cluster stakeholders in Bucharest. The next edition will take place in Berlin in November 2020. See you there. If you want to stay connected in the meantime, visit clustercollaboration.eu for more info.